UCI Cyclo-cross World Cup. We're at the Johnson County Fairgrounds in East Central Iowa, about a 3.5-hour drive due west of Chicago. I'm Steve Schlanger with the 6-time U.S. National Cyclocross champion Tim Johnson. It is a cool mid-September Sunday, and Tim, since this is the first race of the World Cup season, we've got a marquee field comprised of the top riders from around the world here today in Iowa.
And we're getting a good look at the start right now. The front row, this is actually Caroline Mani, our French national champion, longtime U.S. cyclocross resident. She was finished on the podium here last year in second position. She's going to look to try and repeat that result. Katie Compton here, 13-time national champion from the U.S., winner of last year's Iowa World Cup, is really coming off of a great start to the season so far. She's looking for another win here. Sophie DeBoer, Cross Vegas winner last year at the World Cup. I think that she's hoping to come back from a really tough race here last year in the heat. The same goes for Sana Khan here. She had a really tough race, finishing back in 13th position last year at the World Cup. Katerina Nash here, she is also a hero of North American cycling, mountain biker, national champion, world championship medalist. Ellen Van Looy, the Belgian here, she is coming off of a kind of a tough race on Friday night. She looked really good, but had a crash going into the barrier section in the pits. With this rider here, Ellen Noble, our under-23 national champion and World Cup overall champion in that category as well. So that is our front row here. Looking for this start. You know, Steve, kicking off the season like this, it is, Eva Lechner, the 8th rider here in the front row. Kicking off the season with this race, really a lot of nerves out there. They're looking for getting into that first corner cleanly and safely so they can have a shot at getting up Mount Crumpit.
It is a 3.1-kilometer course that is just about 2 miles, and in the sport of cyclocross, the start is paramount. A good start can determine the difference between winning and losing in cyclocross.
And a clean start for all the riders here. Ellen Noble looks like she's going to be fighting Sophie DeBoer at the front. Kind of a slight left turn into the gravel front straight here. This is the typical finish line for the last 2 days of racing here. Jingle Cross are going to be going across this kind of bumpy straightaway. Looks like we've got Sophie DeBoer in front there, the Carlin rider just behind Eva Lechner. Solid start as well. I see Sana Khan there, top 5. Ellen Noble, top 5. This is going to be a bottleneck section. They're going to be fighting for this off-camber. It has been really tough the last couple days. Very, very bumpy here, Steve. 2 distinct lines. You have to choose which one. Do you go high or do you go low? Looks like we're fighting to stay in the bottom line. While up top, Ellen Van Looy is one of the first riders to take that upper line, but it looks like Sophie DeBoer in control of the start here. Sana Khan in second position.
This is a very demanding course, and all of these Europeans coming over have talked about just how challenging it is, and that's high praise because this sport is most popular in Europe. So for the Europeans to come over to the U.S. and talk about how hard this course in Iowa is really speaks to the challenging terrain and the trek that they've laid out.
Well, the 2 big countries, we have the Netherlands and Belgium, first and second right now, being led out by the Dutch rider Sophie DeBoer. And you're right, you know, those races are so powerful. They're so popular. You know, you've got people just glued to the television all afternoon on Saturday and Sunday, most of the fall and the winter, and, you know, if they're not actually at the races themselves. So this is
one of the first times where they have to get off their bikes.
This is the first time up Mount Crumpit. There are 2 barriers at the bottom, 2 railroad ties that force the riders to get off, but you see Sana Khan in the World Championship jersey on the left-hand side of your screen. She is riding this uphill. Doing this is very taxing, and it's a decision that you have to make as a rider. Am I willing to invest that energy to keep safe and in control? You can really only do it when you're at the front. So a great start there by Sana Khan.
And what goes into that decision-making process? Because it doesn't seem like she gained a whole lot there.
Well, you know, that is the thing. It's not necessarily about gaining, but it's about maintaining control, and she was able to stay on her bike, stay out of trouble. And this is the entrance into the sand section. While the last couple days have seen a lot of riders really having a hard time with the sand right now, the early morning rain has made this sand section pretty consistent. You see how there's been a rut developed through the beginning part of the sand section. And it seems like that most of the riders have been able to handle it pretty easily. You see Katie Compton here banging bars a little bit with Nikki Brandmeier from England. So those two riders trying to make it into a really tough corner just after that section.
And that sand pit, 230 feet long, and that's going to be one of the decisive features on the course overall. The sand coming off their first time up the Mount Crumpit climb, and then they'll go back up the climb a second time on every lap. So you have the 2 ascents and descents off Mount Crumpit, plus the sand. Those are the features to really watch for to determine who's going to do well here.
And I hate to say it, but all of those sections come really close to one another. So it's not just one of them that makes the difference. It's doing it really within about a 3-minute period. So as far as being an athlete goes, you have to go to your maximum over and over again each time you do this, and you have to do it in such a small space. You know, this lap time, we might be looking at 7.5 minutes or something, but most of that difficulty comes in such a tight package.
Sane Kante, as you see the names there, bottom left of your screen, is the leader. Though American Katie Compton is up there near the front, and this is the first lap. We don't exactly know how many laps they're going to do. If you're new to cyclocross, what they will do for the women is race for about 50 minutes, and it's going to take 15 to 20 minutes of actual racing before they decide how many laps they will need to get to that roughly 50-minute mark.
So we have a lead change here. Sophie de Boer has given up the lead to Maud Kapteins from the Netherlands. So we have a Dutch rider with an Italian, Eva Lechner, in second. Sophie de Boer, another Dutch rider, in third. They're going to have a first crack at this descent. Look at the crowd that started to assemble there, Steve. This is really a great place to watch, and you can see some of the skills needed to get down this very steep, tough, grass-covered hill. As I'm going to expect to see a lot of crashes here. You can see the riders really delicate, trying to find traction as best they possibly can.
It is off camber. It's a very treacherous descent off their second climb of Mount Crumpit. That's why so many fans typically gather here, because it's a great place to watch some very dynamic action.
There's a British national champion there, Nikki Brandmeier in white. It's like the French rider following suit. You see the riders putting one foot out, trying to maintain balance, trying to find a little bit more traction where you can. It does take a lot of risk, you know, to really get down that as fast as you can. There were lots of crashes earlier in the week as that descent was starting to be worked on by some of the other categories of racers. This shot through the pits here is really good to show, you know, the riders going back and forth throughout the frame before they get to this section, that first set of barriers. And, you see Ellen Noble right there. She is one of the few riders able to bunny hop, but she is absolutely the only female rider to be able to bunny hop a complete set of barriers in a World Cup. She did that on Friday night for the first time and was really proud of that fact and wanted to be able to do that to an advantage. And having a skill set like that in your back pocket is great for when the races really get tough late in the race and you want to have something ready to go to fight with another rider.
Now, Eva Lechner of Italy, still our leader on lap number 1. But coming towards the end of the lap. And you see, with just the features that they've had to deal with in this opening lap, how demanding the course is, how much they push it physically. When you consider all of these elements, how much separation do you expect to see between these athletes as this first lap winds down and we move into the next few?
That was a big talking point for a lot of the riders, was just how much elevation that the riders are going to be hitting throughout the day, those 2 ascents up the climb. This is actually one of the hardest parts that people tend to forget about. This is a short, steep climb. You really go about halfway up Mount Crumpit before coming back down on a tough descent. You see Ellen Van Looy trying to stay to the upper part of that off camber, trying to get around Emma White and Katie Keogh, both riders there for the Canada Cyclo-cross World Team. Katie Compton just behind. She's sitting about top 10, not quite as high as she'd like to be, I think. Not wanting to watch this front group start to ride away, but you can really see how none of the riders are really close together. They're still trying to figure out how this course will ride at race pace.
Now the top 10 separated by just about 12 seconds right now, and still led by the Italian Eva Lechner, the 32-year-old from Bolzano, Italy. She's won at least one national title in all 3 disciplines of cycling: cyclocross, road racing, and mountain biking. So a very versatile rider. Ellen Noble, highest placed American, right now into third place. Katie Keough, Emma White, also in the top 10 for the U.S. in 7th and 8th place, respectively. And now coming to the end of lap number 1, an 8-minute opening lap. What does that tell you?
Well, that is actually, something has changed throughout the night. We saw the rain come down. A lot of the riders coming from, the traditional cyclocross background where they want that technical, difficult course. We're excited to hear the rain hitting the rooftops, but right now it's starting to dry out every single lap, and I expect to see that lap time continue to drop throughout the race.
All through last week, once these riders arrived here in town and started to preview this course, it was hot and dry. Temperature in the low to mid 90s, very humid, but it was a series of thunderstorms that came in just last night that has really softened the conditions. It's cooled it down considerably. I mean, right now it's in the low 70s, which is at least 20 degrees cooler than it was yesterday.
And that was a welcome change, believe me. But right now that lead is being held by Maud Captains. She is the Dutch rider, 22 years old. She's coming off of the 2015 European Cyclocross Championships in the under 23 category. I think that her leading a World Cup is a big move for her. She's I've never seen her at the front of the race this strongly, followed very closely by our American rider, Ellen Noble, in third position. So those two under 23 riders there really fighting not only for the front of their categories. Ellen Noble now just aging out of that, but seeing two young riders at the top of this crew is really good to see. As they're getting into the bottom of Mount Crumpit, being ridden now, Eva Lechner getting over those barriers, staying on her bike, making that decision. I don't see Sonic Khan at the front anymore, maybe paying the price for that first ascent. We'll see what happens to Eva Lechner later on, ascent number 3, 4, 5. See how that goes. That'll really help to decide, but she is really attacking here, trying to make up a gap and getting over the top and putting a couple seconds in there, Steve. That's a solid gap over the top.
And there is Sonic Khan right there in the white jersey with the rainbow stripes. She led the way on lap number 1 up this climb. She rode it the first time, carries her bike the second time through, and it's Eva Lechner making the biggest and boldest statement of the race so far, getting the most separation we've seen.
Attacking this early in the race is something that, as a mountain biker, she's used to these starts that are as fast. They often include really tough single track climbs that you really have to fight for traction. She's coming back from a trip to the World Championships of mountain biking in Australia. So that is a huge voyage, really something that a lot of riders take a long time to recover from. I was able to speak to her team manager this morning for the Cliff Bar team, and he said that she's been fighting a little bit of that travel-induced, funk, maybe a little bit of a virus, but I don't see any effects of that right now. She's really flying.
And on the flip side of that, Tim, she has form coming from the mountain bike, whereas some of these other riders, this is their first big race of the season, training just for cyclocross. So you may sacrifice cyclocross training and travel, however, you have the form of mountain bike that you bring directly into the cyclocross discipline.
And talking about that, the rider in third place in the blue, Katerina Nash, this is her first cyclocross race. She has had a pretty solid mountain bike summer, typically doing stage races like the BC Bike Race and Breck Epic. Not really going to those World Cups, which are, the highest level of mountain bike racing, but instead focusing on those fun races that really challenge a rider's ability to kind of put together all of the skills needed in mountain biking. But she has really been excited about this first mountain bike race, first cyclocross race, first World Cup of the year. She's been on the podium of many World Cups, including the World Championships. So I think she's happy to see a teammate out front, and she's happy with how this race has gone so far.
The Italian Eva Lechner with the lead. Last year she was 8th in this race, and at the World Championships at the end of last season, she was 6th.
See a couple Americans there. Ellen Noble right there in third position, as well as Katie Keough right there. Fourth position. Katie Keough just behind. She was Katie Antonou. She did finish on the podium here last year. Was married just last month and has changed her name to take her husband's name from Luke Keough, fellow bike racer. So this is going to be a change for a lot of us to get used to, and I do expect to see her really up here. See that action right there. Katie Compton going on the inside of that corner. This is really a show of force for her to be able to ride this. A lot of technical skills needed, a lot of risk taking. You can see her continue. She just went around Katie Keough. Now she's going towards that top 3. I think she passed about 3 people on that one descent.
Katie Compton, now at 39 years of age and not letting up. She has won 13 consecutive U.S. National Cyclo-cross Championships.
Real shuffle there. You see how you've got Eva Lechner there. You see Captain's there in second, Katerina Nash in third, Katie Compton in fourth, Katie Keough in fifth. So that top 5 has changed from the first time up the climb. I expect to see that shuffle a little bit. We saw great racing last night. You know, this weekend of racing, Steve, includes a race on Friday night, which is a Category 1 level, lots of points, lots of money on offer. Last night was a Category 2 race. Less racers really took the line. You know, some people have taken a strategic chance to rest, and you know, they might have had a chance to check out the course during the day, but they choose not to race at night. But it really produced a couple different opportunities to get out there on course, and the racing was really exciting. So now it's come together. We have the first World Cup of the year here in Iowa, and you can see just how much effort all these riders are putting in to try and get to the front, including Katie Compton, going around all the way back to second position. So that slow start definitely not affecting her right now.
And that's kind of been her MO over the years, slow starts. She said it's a variety of factors, sometimes nerves, sometimes thinking too far ahead instead of focusing on the moment. The starts have really been a killer for her, and she's had to use a lot of energy early in races to make up that lost ground.
I had a chance to talk to a few of the riders before the start, and I wanted to know what they were running for tire pressure. In cyclocross, tire pressure is a crucial thing.
Oh, look at this. Katie Compton moving all the way up to the front of that group and really taking charge.
Yeah, this camera angle, Steve, really does not show how steep that little pitch is, and it continues to go uphill right here. This is not a short climb, and it does really hurt the riders, but Katie Compton taking control, moving straight to the front. I had a chance to talk to her about her tire pressure and how much that means to her. She rode on Friday night. She was in the race, battled Katie Keough, was eventually finished in second position, losing the race. She has gone down 2 PSI, so today she's running 23 and 24 PSI with an intermediate tire tread. That really gives her a little bit of traction, a little bit of rolling resistance that she can work with to go at high speeds, but that is a pretty, I'd say, neutral or even a not aggressive tire pressure choice. That means that she is going to rely on her physical ability, her aggressiveness and line choice, instead of going for an extreme shot at getting that traction where it might not be held. So look for Katie Compton to really get out there and use all of her power in situations like this to string this group out even farther.
So the defending champion is now at the very front here as they come to the end of lap number 2. Katerina Nash of the Czech Republic is in second, and Katie Keough, the second American in the top 3, is in third, but a host of Americans in the top 10 right now, including Ellen Noble. Emma White also top 10 position, and you go about 12 places deep and still find riders within 10 seconds of the lead as they head out on to lap number 3. How much of a gap is too big this early in the race for some riders to allow these strong athletes we're seeing here at the front?
Well, just looking at Helen Wyman come through in 14th position, she's more than 30 seconds back right now. This far into the race, Steve, I think that is really going to be tough to try and claw back. You know, a rider happier in the deep mud and really difficult rutted conditions that you might find in a typical European cross race in Belgium or the Netherlands. She's really struggling to get this high-speed racing. She did have a good race on Friday night, but I know that she would really wish to be up here at the front of this group right now, but looks like it has built up across that finish straight. Riders now getting into a group of about 12, I think. I think the front 3, we're looking at Compton, Nash, and Keough specifically. Those are all riders that were not unfamiliar with being on a World Cup podium, so I do expect to see those riders battle it out. You know, getting in good position, Steve. Sophie DeBoer making the pass on Keough. Before this climb, I think that we're going to see a couple different changes riding or running as we see the riders get over the top of the bottom barriers on Crumpit. They're all picking the bike up. Eva Lechner choosing to ride again, although having a little bit of a stumble, having to get off.
Now everybody dismounting and carrying their bikes up this climb, with the exception of Sane Kant, who's on the left-hand side of the screen, the right-hand side of the course. Like she did her first time up, she is riding. So interesting. She rode the first time, carried the second time, and is now riding the third time up and trying to stay in contention here near the front.
And Steve, I think that worked to her advantage. So she actually remounted her bicycle at the bottom of that climb, got back on, and then rode up it, and really made up some time. I think she passed 3 or 4 riders, and that will pay off for her if she's able to continue to do that. Again, we're on the 3rd lap now of 6, so getting to the halfway point of the race, efforts like that, you really have to put them at the right spot so you don't pay for them later.
So our top 2 right now, Katie Compton and Katerina Nash, a pair of 39-year-olds. And Nash, for good measure, will turn 40 in just a few months.
Well, welcome to the club, Katerina. I think Sophie DeBoer made a good move. She moved up to the top 3 also. I think Sane Kant was the biggest mover on that climb, really making a difference, choosing to ride. So we might see a rider, you know, you can't really look behind you. You know, if you are top 3 and you feel like you're making the right choice, you don't know that Sane Kant has just passed 5 people on this climb. So you don't even know that you're giving up that. You know, you're giving up that advantage. So I think we're going to see some of the riders now that were behind Sane Kant got passed by her. They might be trying that same thing as well.
Sun's starting to come out on the course. It was cloudy at the start, but it continues to dry out here, as it's still single file in through here and not a very small group off the front. We still have about a dozen riders clustered together. You surprised we haven't got more separation?
You know, the shuffling that's happening within that group is really dynamic. You see riders going, 5, 6 spots, whatever. I see Caroline Mani, podium finisher last year.
Oh, here's the move.
Just tacked on the back, but you know, all of those moves, they happen because of position, they happen because of luck and circumstance, but you can't keep doing that. You really need to look at where you're going to be at the end of the race right now.
I believe that's Katerina Nash who is ridden to the front in the blue. So for the first time leading this race, Katie Compton still up there in the top 3.
And keep an eye out for Katie Compton in 3rd position. She's going to try and make the pass on Sophie DeBoer here going into this sharp left-hand turn. She looks on the inside, not able to make it work, but Longvad has moved all the way up into 4th position. The first time we've seen her so close, but Compton makes that move on the right switchback, so she is really aggressive on this descent. You can just see how much faster she's able to hit this than some of the other riders. So she's very confident on this portion of the course.
Very treacherous descent. What's the key to nailing it?
Well, I have to say that this descent is really tough. There's a big consequence. If you make a mistake, you will crash and it will hurt. So a lot of riders have to really be ready for that effort. It looks like we might have missed Katie Compton. It looks like she is not in this group right now. She might have hit the ground. We saw her right near the front. She was riding top 4, and now she's not there. So that's where that gap came through. We hope to get some information and see how that went down. Maybe we can get a replay of that. But it looks like Katerina Nash now with a solid gap over Sophie DeBoer and Longvad in 3rd.
And there is a lot of daylight between Nash out front and the others coming through here. So it is a group of 5 that is trying to get away. But Nash leading the way here. And still waiting to see about the fate of Katie Compton, who was leading for a short time.
Yeah,
that's Nash at the front here.
Yeah, Steve, I really think that something happened because she went around Sophie DeBoer on that last corner, going into the last corner, I'm sorry. And it is a very tough right-hand turn with like that consequence, as I mentioned. So I think that if we're not seeing Katie Compton here in this group of 5, then something has befallen her, and we will try and get some information about that as soon as we possibly can. So I'm excited to see the under-23 battle happen at the front of the race. You see the green jersey of Emma White there. She's battling with captains also in the dark jersey for that. So good to see those riders going at the front here.
As Maud Kaptoons, number 35, they're in the middle riding through. Also Nikki Brandmeier, number 31 of Germany. This is our leader again, Katerina Nash. Bronze medalist at last year's World Championships. And Nash finishing just off the podium at this event in Iowa City last September when she was 4th.
Sonicon moving into 3rd position, so she's looking like she's ready to make a move to get even closer to the front. You know, talking about that weather change again, Steve, I think that the sun coming out is really going to dry out this course. Is going to make it a little bit faster. Should see some lap times continue to drop. You know, we're coming off of the fastest lap of the race so far, 7:48, and that was Katie Compton as she was moving from the back to the front. Here
there's
we
Katie
go.
Compton right there.
So this is going into that stair section. So this is a great deal of time back from the front group. She is really struggling to get back on her bike and get back up to speed. Let's hope that she's not injured and is able to continue.
This is the end of lap number 3 for our leaders, paced by Katerina Nash. Highest American is Katie Keogh. And Keogh in 5th place right now, but almost 10 seconds back. So just a few more laps left to go. Nash trying to create some more separation between herself and the rest of the field. It looks like with what happened to Katie Compton, whatever that was that we didn't see has probably taken her out of this race, because even though she's made up ground in the past and shown the ability to come from behind, just too far back with too little road left.
I'm going to guess that was more than a minute back where we saw her get into that stair section. So I think at this point in the race, a minute gap for any rider is a lot to ask. We should see her start to come through the start-finish line. We'll get a definite reading on that gap. But Steve, I think that a rider who has a major incident, whether it's a flat, a mechanical, or a crash, you just hope that it's over quickly and you can get back in your bike and continue to go. But she was definitely down dealing with her bike or herself for a great deal of time. That's Sonicon there making the move on Katie Keogh, trying to stay in that top 5. The gap back to Sophie DeBoer is solid. I think that Sophie getting some separation from that chase group. Looks like she's going to be fighting that 2nd position. Here comes Longvad. She's mountain bike marathon national world champion for the specialized team. So she is used to riding a mountain bike race that might take 4 or 5 hours. Here she is trying to get for 50 minutes at the World Cup level.
And here's Katie Compton just now crossing the line to start her 4th lap. So well down now in the standings. Katie Compton basically out of contention. There is Sane Kant, the reigning world champion, going over the top of the climb on her bike. Others still, after the dismount, carrying it to the summit. Tough spot for Compton to be in. Great spot for this woman in the sand, our leader Katerina Nash, and then the others giving chase, a select group of 4.
Sophie DeBoer very at home in the sand, coming from the Netherlands. She's a World Cup winner in Hoogerheide, which has a couple sand sections there, but she's leading that group of 4. But they're really going to have to turn on the gas to try and chase back Katerina Nash, because she is far too good of a rider to give this much space at this point in the race. She's very happy on the uphill. She's also really happy on the technical fast downhill. She has got a lot of skills to draw on to produce her speed, and you can see that she is just standing up and hammering up this climb. Steve, this is the 2nd time up Mount Crumpit. Again, this kind of elevation is unusual in a cyclocross race. So to see a rider coming from her background in mountain biking where the climbs might last for 20 minutes, I mean, she is far too good of a climber to let go this early in the race.
And a bigger gap now opening between her and this group in 2nd place. Sane Khan, it looks like, is trying to make a play to move up towards 2nd position. She realizes just how much of a dangerous position that group is in, because look at how much daylight is between Nash here, our leader, and that group on the right-hand side of the screen. Nash is pulling away and the others are losing ground, and Sane Khan, our reigning world champion, realizes the race could be lost right here.
Well, I see a lot of that shuffling to really not come up of anything. Sanakant there in 4th position in that group, but she really fights to make each pass, but she's not able to hold it. And I think that might come back to bite her later. Sophie DeBoer there leading that group. Katie Keogh in the green. We've got Longvad in the red and white of Specialized. And Sanakant in the rainbow stripes. So she looks like she's really pushing hard on this climb. I think that she's not entirely comfortable with this kind of elevation gain, while we see Katerina Nash looking like she is just eating this course alive, putting a lot of time into her rivals.
Katerina Nash won the Cross Vegas Cyclo-cross World Cup race in 2015 out in Las Vegas, the first ever UCI Cyclo-cross World Cup to be held outside of Europe. And now this race in Iowa City, known locally as Jingle Cross, is a World Cup for the 2nd year in a row, the most prestigious level of cyclocross racing anywhere you'll find.
And talking about Cross Vegas last year, Sophie DeBoer won that race. She is in 2nd position, so she knows what it takes to win a big World Cup race like that as well. So she really wants that 2nd group to catch Katerina Nash, and I think that we should start to see a little bit more fighting to be at the front of that group and really keep that pace going. Katie Keogh taking a look back, looks like is being caught by Mani and Compton there. So that is now going to be a group of 5 in that chase group.
Sophie DeBoer in 2nd place, but 20 seconds behind Nash. And one of the most difficult aspects of this sport is trying to catch the front runner the caliber of a Katerina Nash. When she gets out front, has a clean course, starts to create some more separation, very hard to run down.
Well, I tried to follow her down a couple trails at the BC bike race this summer, and let me just say that someone who can ride a mountain bike down stuff that would just put the fear into any rider out there is really impressive. So her tackling this course, you know, cyclocross bikes, they look like road bikes, but they've got a little bit more knobs on the tires. You typically run a lower pressure to get more traction, but there's no suspension on that bike at all. You can see how the bike is really bouncing over some of these bumps, Steve. It's really all about the transitions and riding your bike as smoothly as you can and as fast as you possibly can. So it takes a lot of finesse to make a bike like that go this fast. So I'm really impressed with the ride that Katerina Nash is having right now.
Also a cross-country skier who has competed in 2 different Olympic Winter Games in 1998 and in 2002. So just a little natural athletic ability, I seem to think, right?
I think to translate that means that there are huge lungs buried in that body right there. So she has got an incredible ability to go fast for long periods of time.
So once they come around to the start-finish line, next time it'll be 2 laps left to go. Not getting any easier for this chase group led by, among others, Sophie DeBoer and the world champion Sanakant. There is our lone leader right now, Katerina Nash. This is the 2017-18 Telenet UCI Cyclo-cross World Cup, called Jingle Cross here in the Midwest. It has been an event for a dozen years, and for most of that was just a local event, a nonprofit event that basically benefited the University of Iowa Children's Hospital, and it was always held over the holidays, hence the name Jingle Cross. But because it's had World Cup status to fit in the Cyclo-cross World Cup calendar, it had to be moved up a few months to September, as Nash now starts her penultimate lap. Now 2 to go for her.
And that is a big, big gap there, Steve. This is really impressive. She's holding off this chase group now, being led by Katie Keogh in the green. Sophie DeBoer still holding back in 3rd position, but you can see the riders put their heads down immediately once they get onto this fast gravel section. Very high speed. You know, these are speeds you might find on a road bike, but I see Sanakant there in 4th position. She is not looking like the fresh, powerful world champion herself. Still early in the season, but not looking like she's going to be able to close that gap anytime soon. Ellen Noble leading Nikki Brandmeier there across the start-finish line as well. But Katerina Nash, 22 seconds over that group with Mani in there. That is a huge gap, and I think that's going to be really hard to close down.
Katie Keogh of the U.S. leading the 2nd group through, 21 seconds behind our leader, Katerina Nash, with 2 laps left to go. Going to be hard for anybody to run this woman down So strong, especially when she gets out front like this, and obviously having a very good day when others just cannot match the pace.
A lot of times, Katerina Nash is somebody that doesn't do a full schedule. She doesn't do the full World Cup cyclocross schedule. She does, specific ones that she likes or maybe has wanted to do. Even on the mountain bike circuit, she's stepped away from the World Cup circuit. She is a rider that when she is there, all these other riders go, oh, I wonder what she's going to do today. And she's obviously showing that she has shown up ready to go and ready to fight.
Sophie de Boer back into second place. Nash, our leader, off the bike and carrying it up the climb. Again, the first of 2 ascents of Mount Crumpit here on this penultimate lap. Because it is called Jingle Cross, obviously, you've probably picked up on the Grinch Who Stole Christmas theme. A lot of these course features have Grinch named themes to them. Frostbite Forest, the Holly Jolly Hellhole, the Bobsled Bomb, the Jingle Cross Flyover, Mount Crumpit. You get the idea.
I think we get the picture now. That's, a lot of that history had to do with when it was snowing, when it was cold and rainy. This race getting a UCI designation was something that the organizers really fought hard for and wanted to make it a feature of the North American schedule. And going on to that World Cup schedule was a big deal. And being a part of that event last year was pretty special for all the people that helped to put this event together. Katerina Nash, being someone who's come to Jingle Cross in years past, she knows just how much work goes into it. And I think part of who we speak to at a race like this, Steve, is really the hundreds of racers that participate earlier this weekend, racing last night, racing all day on Friday. They know what these riders are going through. They know what Katerina Nash is tackling right now. They know how hard it is, and all they can think of is how do these riders make sections like this look so easy? Ellen Noble going across the sand. This was something that tripped up almost every single racer all weekend long.
How much do you attribute what we're seeing to the changing of the weather conditions and the rain we had last night?
I think a lot of the riders were really happy about that, finding that extra traction. A term that we use in mountain biking is hero dirt, where you can get traction almost wherever you want. And seeing the course change like this has become now a fall race. Yesterday, the week before, it was all summer, all the time. It felt like you were at the beach and you were just going to bake yourself to death.
So often cyclocross races are held, as you mentioned, in the winter months, and this having traditionally been a November-December event, now moved up in advance of Halloween even. But then again, the holidays keep getting longer and longer every year. The sales seem to start right after Labor Day, so it kind of fits right into the new trend.
Sure does. I see some action here. Katie Keogh looking like she's attacked this chase group. Caroline Mani trying to hold that wheel. She's a French national champion in the blue, white, and red, and our world champion in third. But Katie Keogh really putting the pressure down on that big climb. She's very comfortable on that part of the course. She's going to try and consolidate on the descent, but it looks like that gap has gone down. So 18 seconds behind Katerina Nash here. So they've closed the gap slightly. Looks like it will be a fast descent for that second group.
Look how well Katerina Nash handles that descent. Maintained her pace, didn't look stressed or nervous at all. And now Keogh second, followed by the world champion Sanne Compton third.
There are a lot of skills that go into making this descent work. Look at that action going around this corner. We held a skills clinic yesterday that was free to a lot of the racers who are participating. Sanne Compton going right to the edge, Sophie de Boer as well. This descent is really tough. Anyone who's ridden it knows that if you mess up, you will be either on the ground or even, God forbid, in the barn. And we will get some news on Katie Compton. We have not seen her come across our screens recently, so we'll try and find out exactly what happened there. But, at any point a rider has an incident like that, you just hope that it's not at a big consequence or they get injured. But a lot of the riders hanging it out there, including Sanne Compton, she looks like she is burying herself trying to get back to the front.
That's Katie Compton right there, number 5, near the top of the screen a moment ago. And she was riding like someone who was going to challenge for the win when she had her issue.
Yeah, that's how you want to line up at a World Cup. You want to be in contention for that win. She was making up a lot of time. She posted the fastest lap of the day. It's actually still holding, almost tied by Katerina Nash, but she is really suffering right now. This climb is not looking like it's gotten any easier after that crash.
She had Alicia Franck of Belgium right behind her. Now back to Katerina Nash.
Like that gap, Steve, has really only fluctuated by 1 second. We're looking at a 19-second gap from Katerina Nash here, the Cliff Bar rider in blue, back to Katie Keogh, who's leading that chase group, with a slight gap over Caroline Money and Longvad just behind her. So I think that group now is starting to split up even more. It looks like Sophie DeBoer
losing contact.
Yeah, this is going to be Keogh getting into that steep section again. Sana Khan just behind her. So that is our podium fight. You know, they're going to look at 1 to go, Steve. So we will see those riders fight extra hard at this point, trying to make sure that they are on that podium because they deserve to be there.
Caroline Mani, number 22, who was second in this race a year ago, fighting to stay in podium contention, but losing ground. Katerina Nash is the leader, has been for the last few laps. When she comes around to the start-finish line next time, it'll be 1 lap left to go. And for the first time, we're seeing our podium riders, the first 3 in singular positions. Not a group of riders, but very distinct 1, 2, 3 positions in the field.
Really making quick use of those corners. Katerina Nash looks very smooth, very fast. Katie Keogh in second position, also looking like she's really handling these tough, really, slippery, grassy corners that will trip you up and put you on the ground if you make a mistake. But both those riders really going fast. Katerina Nash coming across start-finish line, hearing that bell for 1 to go. She is not going to look back at all. She's only going to go forward. Katie Keogh doing the same thing. She has got those teeth bared, and she is trying to make this last lap count. And that gap is growing over Sana Khan. She is really going to have to fight to hold off Sophie DeBoer and Caroline Mani. Those 2 riders trying to get onto that third step of the podium.
So Sophie DeBoer, right now, the rider just outside of podium position in 4th place. But it could be a battle for those final spots on the podium, especially the 3rd and final step. That's Katie Keogh there, the American in the green. Right now seems to be a pretty safe second. Katerina Nash out front in 1st. So the biggest battle right now figures to be for 3rd place.
Well, I have to say that the gap has gone down again. It's now 13 seconds from Katerina Nash back to Katie Keogh. So that gap is not growing. That means that Katerina Nash still has a fight on her hands. You know, 1 mistake puts you 5 seconds, 10 seconds back, and before you know it, Katie Keogh is back in the fight for the win. But she is trying to make sure that she's going as fast as she can without making those tragic and really fatal mistakes at this point in the race.
Here's our 2nd place rider, Katie Keogh of the U.S. She won the race here on Friday night, with Katie Compton in 2nd, Caroline Mani in 3rd. Helen Wyman, Ellen Van Looy rounded out the top 5. So some pretty marquee riders she went up against. Not the full field we're seeing here today, but what a confidence boost that was for Keogh to win just 2 days ago.
A win at a Category 1 race at any point in the year is a big deal, but on a Friday night before this World Cup on Sunday, it really did set her up well. You're right. I mean, it's a confidence boost like nowhere else. You know, when you've beaten someone who's a 13-time national champion, when it comes down to the last lap against someone who typically wins by 30, 40 seconds after, really making that separation early in the race, it was a big deal. So getting back to the race here, though, Steve, looks like we've got Mani back in 3rd position, Sophie DeBoer in 4th.
And look at Sana Khan again on the right-hand side of the course, left-hand side of the screen, riding up that climb. Here's our leader, Katerina Nash. Now, behind her, Katie Keogh has been looking very strong, maybe getting better as the laps have unfolded. She might just run out of course, though.
You know, last year's race was 37 minutes long. She finished on the podium in third position. She was just a couple seconds behind Caroline Mani in second. She wants this race to go along. You're right. Having the chance to fight for the win is really a rider's dream. So if she could add on a seventh lap, she definitely want to do that.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the nature of this race is they only determine the overall length once the race starts. They try to come in right around 50 minutes or so. So once the race begins, they time it out and figure, okay, how many laps is that going to take? So she may have benefited from maybe them giving an extra lap that they didn't allow.
There has always been a discussion about the length of women's races in cyclocross. You know, how much time are we really going for? Is it going to be a 40-minute and 50-minute race? And I know all these riders put in so much effort, training, and travel and racing. They want these races to be long enough to make these fights epic. And I think that we're seeing right now Katerina Nash, her final time up Mount Crumpit, she is really going as fast as she possibly can. Katie Keough wishing that she could be up just a few more seconds and put a little bit of pressure on Nash for that final descent. But this battle is going good, and I see these riders, both well known to each other, getting on the podium at a World Cup again is going to be huge to start off the season.
So Katie Keough, definitely a safe second, trying desperately to find a way to make it all the way up to the front against a very robust Katerina Nash. The tightest battle is for the final step of the podium right now. A group of riders all clustered together looking to finish third. But this is back to the front with Nash. And she's been so good on this descent. Others have taken at least 1 foot out of the pedal for stability. She rides all the way down, feet clipped in.
Nothing but speed. I mean, she is flying down this thing. Katie Keough here looking like she's putting a little bit more effort into making those right kind of moves, but she is hitting these lines. She is looking down that descent, trying to get back up to speed and make this right-hand turn, but you can see the speed difference from Katerina Nash to Katie Keough. You saw just how much extra time it took for Katie Keough to get down to the bottom. I see Katerina Nash's technical skills really playing well in conjunction with her climbing skills and producing this kind of a ride, putting her in first position at the World Cup.
Liz Mani, De Boer, Sane Kant, Langvad, the riders who are battling for the bottom step of the podium right now. That's Katie Keough in the green of the U.S. in second place.
And that gap, Steve, has gone back up to 19 seconds, so it looks like it is more of a safe bet for Katerina Nash. But look at the battle in third position. We just saw a group start to come together again, and it's still the usual players. It's got Mani Boer and Sonic Kant there with Langvad. So those riders really fighting for that last podium spot. I expect to see that come all the way down to the finish line.
But Katerina Nash holding off Katie Keough as she looks to finish this off in Iowa City. Here comes Keough in the background, but just not going to be able to get her unless there's some kind of an issue that Nash has the rest of the way.
Yeah, nothing but daylight behind her as well. That group is just starting to get on that straightaway. So Katie Keough, a solid second place, but you're right. It looks like Katerina Nash has got this thing under control. One last climb here before a real tricky descent. We're not able to see it on camera, but I know that the speed at which Katerina Nash is going to hit this thing will really pay off for her. But this is going to be the last tough section before some flat, grassy corners, and we'll see Katerina Nash come onto this finish straight. But this will be a World Cup win for her to remember, and another podium for Katie Keough here in second position.
This is the first of 9 World Cup races in this year's cyclocross season. The next will be next week in Wisconsin. And now the battle for third. Sane Kant right behind Sophie De Boer.
We had a bit of a slip out there. Caroline Mani really trying to make that corner go fast. She actually hit the deck, had to step off the bike, and she's going to lose her chance to go for that podium spot. Coming down to Sane Kant and Sophie De Boer, the Dutch and the Belgian rider. That podium position means a lot. This is such a big deal for your season.
Sane Kant last year finished 13th in this race. A terrible result by her standards. went on to finish much better the remainder of the World Cup season, and then, of course, win the World Championship last winter. And now here comes Katerina Nash, the 39-year-old who was 4th here last year, won bronze at the World Championship, and she's the winner in Iowa City this year. Katie Keough of the U.S. won here on Friday night, takes 2nd today in the World Cup. And now the most heated competition of the day for the final spot on the podium. And here comes Sane Kant into her sprints, pulling ahead up the middle of the course. And it is Sane Kant, the reigning world champion, who finishes in 3rd, Sophie de Boer 4th, and Maud Kaptoons rounding out the top 5.
I see that time gap from Katerina Nash back to Katie Keough, just 12 seconds, so really a tough fought last half of that last lap.
Big crowds at the finish here in Iowa City. A lot of exhausted riders at the finish. With this race finishing in a little over 47 minutes. So under the 50-minute time they typically shoot for, but relatively close. There's Eva Lechner finishing in 10th, a minute 20 down. She was the early leader in the first few laps, but eventually fading.
That'll be our under 23 winner, Emma White, in 11th position, just outside that top 10, but she will be going up on the podium to collect that World Cup leader's jersey. Ellen Van Looy, the Belgian rider, coming in for 12th.
And riders now coming in about 2 minutes down. There is Katie Compton. Had that issue out on the course at a point where she was leading the race and looking like she had the ability to pull off the win for the 2nd year in a row. But she is going to come in well over 2 minutes down on our winner, Katerina Nash.
Helen Wyman, the British rider, starting off her season here in the U.S. like she's done for many, many years. She's definitely a well-known figure in American cyclocross. Looks like we've had, so Katie Compton, coming across the line here. So that crash might have been very serious. Possible dislocated shoulder, according to her husband, Mark Legg. So really a tough thing to see for any rider, but especially for someone who had been hoping to go for this win once again.
Yeah, almost 3 minutes down now for the 13-time U.S. national champion, Katie Compton. Tough way to start off the World Cup campaign. Again, our winner, Katerina Nash, who turns 40 years of age in early December. Just missed the podium a year ago, went on to win a bronze medal at the World Championships, but top step of the podium this year here in Iowa City. Katie Keough, after the win on Friday, 2nd place today in the first World Cup of the new year. And then the battle for 3rd place, and the reigning world champion wearing the rainbow stripes, Sane Kant, who was 13th here last year, sprinting ahead to take the final spot on the podium. 2-time overall World Cup Series winner, European champion, and never quite in the mix for the win today. Just a little off her best, it seems.
No, but I think that the effort that we saw out of Sane Kant really showed that she was willing to, to get back and get some revenge on this course. Last year having that bad race, definitely coming back to get 3rd is a great result for her. Hard fought, podium spot. But looking at the top 10 here, Steve, with Katerina Nash and Keough, Sonic Compton, Sophie DeBoer there in 3rd and 4th. But, you know, all these riders now, the gaps they have, it has borne out to be a big, a tough course that has really separated this field. You know, last year there were 5 riders inside of a minute, and the top 10 was inside of a minute and a half. So this course really taking its toll on the riders.
Katerina Nash with the win. One of the 42 riders taking the start today from 12 different countries. And 17 Americans, 4 Belgians, 3 from the Netherlands. All of the top riders from around the world descending on Iowa City. Second time in as many years. This race was a World Cup. And again, a worthy winner as Nash delivers and celebrates with the solo victory, soaking it all in the sun that has emerged here in the Midwest.
I think it fits me with the hill, with the descending, and so I'm excited.
Now you heard the little soundbite right there. The hill, the descending, worked out perfectly for her.
Yeah, Eva actually impressively rode the hill, and she got a gap, and so at that point, you know, I was kind of like, well, somebody else keep chasing. This is my teammate, so it worked out perfectly. You know, it's a nice dude. Yeah, we're pretty lucky, you know. The Cliff Pro team has a few riders in the field, and you know, if opportunity comes up, we'll take advantage of it.
The thing I like to tell people, Katerina Nash works with.
Oh, barely looks winded after the effort that was just over 47 minutes in front of a typically good crowd here in Iowa City, as Katerina Nash opens up the World Cup season with the victory, and she takes the win today in the 2017-18 Telenet UCI Cyclo-cross World Cup opener at the Johnson County Fairgrounds in Iowa City.
Yeah, talking about her teammate there, Eva Lechner, coming across the line in 10th. So her early moves helped Katerina Nash get that victory, but really she did pay the price coming in 10th position there. But that kind of teamwork, you're very lucky to have it, and it's not very common in the sport of cyclocross at all.
Two Americans in the top 10 with Keough and Noble. Compton was certainly riding at a top 10 pace, if not a winning pace, when she went down, and finishing almost 3 minutes back as a result. Now, but dry conditions, despite the overnight rain showers and a softer course than what the riders had experienced throughout the week. Pleasant temperatures in the 70s. Really a terrific day for racing, as the riders compete in the first of 9 World Cups this season. The second will be next week in Waterloo, Wisconsin, just outside of Madison. And then the World Cup campaign takes a break for about a month before they resume in Europe in mid-October.
So the race next week in Waterloo is a new World Cup. It's actually taking a bit of the space of Cross Vegas now as a Category 1 race. A lot of the riders are looking at this beginning of their season as, you know, a block of time. They can move over here for, you know, 2 weeks, maybe even more if they're going to do some training beforehand. And we saw some of the riders participate in some clinics in the Chicago area, including Sven Nys and Sven Van Tornhout, both of those riders working with the Trek company, and really helping to make, you know, the idea of, you know, Belgian cyclocross and Dutch cyclocross, you know, the big European crosses, they're not so foreign. You know, these riders are out here trying to put together races that will create a career and create a great season to get ready for it. So really cool to see that integration from the North American and European cyclocross calendars.
And there's the winner, Katerina
Katerina Nash,
Nash.
congratulations. What a start. What's your analysis of this race?
Oh, I had a great day today. I've raced Jingle Cross many times before it became World Cup, and so I have a good knowledge of that hill and the course, and yeah, I like coming back here, and it just worked out for me today. I didn't have any trouble, any mechanicals like last year, so it was a smooth ride, and I'm excited to take it.
Was that what made the difference for you, the knowledge of the circuit here?
It always helps, you know. There's one thing to pre-ride the course, you know, 2-3 days before the race, but kind of that racing experience, it's really, really helpful. And yeah, I'm glad I took the time and always came out here when it was in World Cup, and it was typically on the snow, so it's a little different, but it's still, it helps.
How did it feel for you? Because after a minute or 10 or so, the sun got through and it got really, really hot.
Yeah, it was warm for sure, but not as bad as yesterday or not as bad as last year. And we're still at the end of the summer, so I've done a lot of mountain bike races in the heat. So I was managing the heat pretty well today.
Yeah, the mountain bike experience must have helped you.
It does, it does. I have to admit, I come from a ski background, so like I like the cooler temperatures, and the heat always been a struggle. But I think with the many years of experience, I'm getting a little better at it.
And now up to next week in Waterloo. Double-double?
Yeah, you know, we'll try, you know. It's always, I mean, I take it any day, but I definitely set the bar high for myself. And as you can tell, the field today, it's a very competitive field. It's a whole bunch of strong female riders, and it's really exciting to watch. And so I'll go out there and give it another fight, and I'm excited to finally wear the, the leader's jersey. I earned it twice, but I never went to the next race, so I never got to start with it. So that'll be exciting.
Enjoy it. Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, it's about time to go to that next race. So get those travel plans for Waterloo, Wisconsin in order. As Katerina Nash gets the win in the World Cup opener and now is the leader after the first of 9 events this season.
Really cool to see that she's taking this like a great way to cap off a career that's included so many different disciplines. But I think cyclocross has that draw for a lot of riders where they love the atmosphere, and she was really introduced to North American cyclocross and just loves that feel. So great way to start off her season.
Second place finisher Katie Keough.
Katie Keough, what a weekend for you. You must love Iowa City now.
I do love it here a lot. It's about 4 hours where I'm from, and it's like hometown race. It's good, yeah.
First Friday, now here. Perfect weekend for you. How did you manage to get those results?
A lot of hard work over the spring and summer, and just having fun riding my bike again, and I'm really happy, yeah.
And the circuit was good for you, I think. Was it really on your size?
Yeah, this is a good course for me. It's tough, and the harder the course is, the better I seem to do, so yeah.
You were getting a little bit closer to Katie Nash. Did you think you were still able to catch her?
No, I was hurting pretty bad, so I'm really, Katerina's a phenomenal rider, and I'm happy to finish second today, so yeah.
After a minute or 10 or so, the sun got through. How did you cope with the heat?
I was trying to hydrate a lot before the race, and then it's hot for everyone, so just kind of not have to let it get to you. But
thank you very much.
Now you heard Katie Keough mention she's just from 4 hours away, and that means that next week she'll be racing in her home state of Wisconsin in the second World Cup of the year in Waterloo. Katie Keough, 25 years of age, born on New Year's Day back in 1992. And there is the reigning world champion who finished third today, Sanne Kant.
Sanne Kant, eerste wereldbekercross meteen op het podium. Ben je tevreden met wat je vandaag hebt gepresteerd?
Goh, ik denk dat ik er alles heb uitgehaald wat er mogelijk was. Dus ik denk wel dat ik tevreden mag zijn.
De top 2 helemaal buiten bereik voor jou?
Goh, tweede misschien, maar ze reed een hele rappe voorlaatste ronde. En dat was op dat moment net iets te rap voor mij. Ik denk dat de winnaar was volgens mij gewoon vandaag uitstending.
Voor de cross zei je al dat je toch een beetje bang was voor de hitte. Dan kwam die zon er ook door. Hoe is het voor jou geweest?
Goh, ja, het was deze voormiddag redelijk fris na een aantal dagen dat we ervoor gehad hebben. En ja, plotseling aan de start kwam stil aan de zon. Waardoor het parcours wel begon op te drogen, maar het wordt natuurlijk ook warmer en warmer. En je voelt het nu ook, eigenlijk met per half uur stijgt het precies 5 graden. Dus het wordt lastiger en lastiger om te rijden.
Met wat voor gevoel ga je nu naar Waterloo volgende week?
In ieder geval met een beter gevoel dan dat ik hier vorig jaar ben vertrokken. Dus ik denk dat ik wel een beetje een stap voorwaarts heb gezet, ook op dit parcours. Dus ja, als ik een goede trainingsweek terug kan hebben, dan hopelijk volgende week nog net iets beter.
Dankjewel. Sannekant, first race in the World Cup. Sannekant, first race in the World Cup and immediately on the podium. How does that feel for you?
Quite good. I had a better day than last year, so I'm happy with the result.
Katie Keogh, she escaped from you. Was it impossible to catch up to her?
Oh, she did a really fast climb in the second last lap, so yeah, that was too hard for me, but I'm happy with third.
All right. Thank you very much.
So hearing from our top three, Nash, Keogh, and this woman, Sanne Kant, who had to battle more than the others to get her podium spot, sprinting for third to finish in the top three today on a course featuring Mount Crumpit, one of the most decisive aspects of the track here in Iowa City. Even had a dog race earlier today. They had races for all kinds. They were out in swimsuits, the pets came out. They've had racing here over the last 3 days, really making it a big party, a big festival atmosphere, and as a result, the fans have loved it. Even the kids race.
At all ages, yeah, the kids race was pretty hotly contested. I think that, you know, this guy's got cranks. He's not riding a Strider bike, but it was tough out there. I saw a lot of action, a lot of bar banging by those kids. But, you know, we have some unofficial information on Katie Compton via her husband, Mark Legg. And it looks like that crash really has taken a toll, maybe a suspected dislocated shoulder and concussion.
And now time for the podium ceremony, beginning with Sanne Kant in third.
Place, representing the United States of America, Katie Keogh.
And Katie Keogh, the Wisconsin native, who will race in her home state next week on the second stop of the World Cup. Second step of the podium, and now number one.
Riding out of the Czech Republic, Katerina Nash.
39-year-old Katerina Nash of the Czech Republic. A year after just missing the podium, where she finished fourth last season. Right behind, ironically enough, the woman to her right, Katie Keogh, who was third. This year, she's one step higher than her, finishing in first. So Nash, Keogh, and Kant, top three in Iowa City. And should all three be factors next week in Wisconsin as well?
Yeah, you expect to see that really come to play. Those guys will be fighting out for that win. That course doesn't have quite the same elevation, but I know that the amount of work that has gone into making that course truly World Cup worthy has been astounding. A lot of support by the Trek employees and management have made that event something special, and it's great to see them get their World Cup designation.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, if we can have your attention, please.
Nash, Keogh, and Kant. And now the national anthem of the Czech Republic. And Katerina Nash will hope to hear that anthem a few more times this season. A World Cup campaign that will stretch into her 40th year. Again, she turns 40 this coming December. And still knows how to spray the champagne.
She's had quite a lot of practice over her storied career. I know that standing on the top step of the World Cup podium is something that she has been looking forward to all season long.
The champagne and the photos to finish it off. A week of training and racing here in the American Midwest for these riders who arrived here earlier in the week. This is a race that traditionally has been held on Saturday, but because of a conflict with the University of Iowa football game yesterday, it was moved to Sunday. So that allowed some of the riders to race in that Friday night competition that we talked about, have a day off yesterday, and then come back for the World Cup event today. Last year they didn't get that option really because the race was on a Saturday, so they didn't want to race on Friday night and then come right back 24 hours later.
Yeah, watching the scene after that football game was just was a shock. I know that two of the men's riders, Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel, had a chance to go to the game itself. They got to go on the field and check that out, and they said that it was very special. They didn't understand just how wildly enthusiastic the fans are for college football. There's 75,000 people in that stand. You know, that's the population of Iowa City here.
Yeah, it's like a Champions League soccer game over in Europe, something of that nature. So I would certainly understand that if you're not from here, when you see it for the first time, that it does hit you in a way that you don't expect. So with the women wrapping things up, just a little while away from the men's race that will close out the 3 days of racing here in Iowa City. Men racing for a little more than an hour, while the women came in just over 47 minutes today.